back to my channel. Today I want to share with you guys a review of the vendors and people we worked with for our wedding. A little backstory if you're new here, my husband and I got married about 5 months ago. We got married just outside the GTA in cottage country, so I wanted to share the people that I've worked with to either save you a headache or to help make your day even better. The first vendor that I want to speak about is our photography and videography crew. The company we went with was Timeless Tree Weddings, and I had stumbled upon them now almost a couple of years ago, and I actually won a contest with them that allowed me to get 50% off any package they offered. So photography and videography was my big spend for the wedding. It's the one thing that I hands down would have spent the most money on and ended up spending the most money on. And for Scott, it was food. So when I got the opportunity to have their top tier at 50% off, I absolutely jumped on it. It was still more than I was originally planning on spending, but after doing some perusing and talking with different companies and different freelance photographers, a lot of them didn't have videography, and then you have to hire someone else, like another company, and it was just like, you know what? For the hassle, it's just not worth it. Let's go with Timeless Tree Weddings. So Tommy is the owner, and he was awesome to work with, very easy to reach and to communicate with, did a video call with us to kind of get the vibe that we were looking for. And we had 2 photographers, 2 videographers, and some drone footage as well, which was pretty awesome. And we also did our engagement shoot with our package. So my head photographer's name was Lamaic, and he was exceptional, fabulous person to talk with and to work with. He made my husband Scott feel comfortable in front of the camera, which is not an easy feat. Scott actually left our engagement shoot saying that he enjoyed it. And I said to him, I was like, you need to take this in because this doesn't happen. So they were fantastic to work with on the day of our wedding, and I have absolutely no regrets working with them. We had 3 videos produced for us. We had our 1-minute social media trailer, our highlight reel, and then our full-length film, which I got not too long ago. And our feature-length film is about an hour long, but they have cut multi-hour films depending on your ceremony, of course. So I would give this company 5 stars, no problem. Next is food, and as I said, this was the big spend for Scott. I say we are foodies, we are, but Scott definitely more so than myself because he also enjoys cooking, whereas I do not. I just like to eat. And we had the opportunity to work with the same caterer that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law had at their wedding a few years ago. His name is Mike Cassano, and I will leave all links down below to how you can reach these different vendors and companies. So with Mike, we had a fantastic sit-down dinner for my sister-in-law's wedding a few years ago. So we never did any food tasting with him. We opted for a buffet style because we had a much smaller wedding, and he was fantastic to work with. We did video calls and just calls in general to really help hone in on what we needed. So not just with food, Mike was great being like, hey, if this is how many guests you have, you should order a few more of these, etc., with napkins and plates and stuff like that. So that was really it's a very smooth experience, and we spoke to him months and months and months out. So we had all this stuff planned almost a year in advance. We didn't have to, but it's just the way that everything worked out. And he was also very accommodating when we kind of locked in our prices. The only thing that I would say is a drawback from that is we had a lot of leftover food because we had some cancellations leading up to the wedding, and we didn't get to keep it. I don't know where it went. It just got all packed up, and that was, I would say, the only letdown in my mind. But the food was fantastic. Everyone kept coming to us and telling us how good it was. Scott tried everything, but truth be told, I barely ate. I was just, so excited, and I just could barely stomach any food, even though I told my best friend and maid of honor to make sure that I ate, and believe me, she took that really seriously. I just couldn't stomach most things. So I had little bits, but we got a couple recipes from him, wedding meals that we've made since. So I would say that food was a 4.5 star out of 5. Now, our next vendor is one that I would caution you with, and that was basically our vendor for all the tables, the chairs, the tent, and miscellaneous things like that. The company is Caledon Event Rentals, and this was the company that also did my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's wedding, because we both did our weddings up at the cottage, and I knew that he would be able to get the tent there, and I knew that he had all these items. In the time for my sister-in-law's wedding, for 3 years, they had split from another partner and were kind of revamping their inventory and stuff like that. And I wasn't super worried about that because things change, like not a big deal, but it kind of went a little bit downhill from there. So initially, it was great communication between the owner and myself. But because, again, we were talking so far in advance, there were some times where he would be like, oh, well, give me these numbers. And I'm like, we haven't even sent the save the dates yet. Like, we are literally ages away from the wedding. So sometimes he was really prompt with communication. Other times I was chasing him for weeks and weeks and weeks. We did have a couple hiccups with our initial invoicing and our ordering. We got a really big tent, which was great. We ended up upgrading, I guess you will, for the roof. So we had a couple of clear panels, which were gorgeous, and I loved them. But our big issue was with the toilets. So a year ago, I had reached out to a company to get some quotes, because I was just kind of reaching out to anyone and everyone who would service the area. And I got some quotes, and I went back to this other company, and I was like, hey, this is what I've been given. I see that you also have toilets now. What can we do? Because he was charging a little more for the same kind of items. We kind of compromised, which was amazing. And I was like, excellent. It was like an extra $100. I was like, I can do this. Because again, the ease of it being with one person was so much better than multiple companies. But then literally the day before I was sent the invoice, or the day after he sent the invoice and I hadn't paid it yet because it had just come through, he messages me and says, oh, I made a mistake with the system and we have no more toilets. And this was a couple months out from the wedding now. And I was just like, okay, what does this mean for me? And he was just like, oh, go back to the person that you quoted from before. And I said, well, that was literally months and months ago. Like, I don't know if they're gonna have it. So I reached out to another company, which was Genco. Thankfully, they had a toilet. Unfortunately, it was the only one left, and it was their most expensive unit. So that hiccup cost us several $100s, which was a real piss off, to be quite frank. And then we'd ordered, our tablecloths and our chairs and our tables. We did a couple of harvest tables for the head table, which was awesome. And I had to, again, tweak them in the end, but they got there. But they sent the wrong color tablecloths for our cruiser tables, like the 2-foot round tables, which again wasn't a make or break. So thankfully, like, we went with all black tablecloths and then like white napkins, but they also gave us white tablecloths for the cruiser tables. So it was still on our scheme, our color theme, which was fine. So I wasn't really faffed with it, but I was definitely like annoyed, where I'm like, I literally, like, everything is itemized. Like, even on the invoice, everything's itemized. Like, how do you get the wrong color? We also had some gold cutlery, which was really nice, but originally they were supposed to do all of our plates. And because he kept not putting it on the invoice, I got really nervous. So I reached out to another company, which is Elite Party Rentals in Barrie. And they were fantastic to work with. Super simple. I was like, this is how many champagne flutes I need. This is how many water glasses I need. This is how many plates I need. Boom. So that was, I would say, very affordable as well, which was great. It didn't cost me an arm and a leg to get those. And they were really easy to deal with. So again, I gave them a 5 stars. I had no complaints. And they had so many different things that I could have also rented from them. But I knew that I was covered with my original vendor. So I would say for Caledon Event Rentals, I would say it's a 3-star. The chairs were kind of rusty. We had a bar, like, it was supposed to be an LED bar. It did not light up. It was filthy. Like, a magic eraser would have been really handy. And there were so many plastic tablecloths taped onto these tables. It was nuts. So just like, there was no care in the items. And when my sister-in-law rented from them, I don't know if they were on the newer side back then, but they looked at the state of things and they're like, none of that looked like that for their wedding. So that was a little bit disappointing. And I get there's wear and tear over the years, but these ladies were not properly stored. So 3 stars, that's being generous, I think, but in the end, it worked out. So with Genco, again, the toilets, I would give them a 5-star. It wasn't obviously their fault that they only had 1 toilet left. They were really great with delivering it, setting it up exactly where I wanted it, and I felt kind of bad. I was like, oh, can we like pivot and tweak and whatever? And the guy's like, yeah, no problem, we won't leave until you're happy. So that was great, and then they picked up a few days later, so that was pretty seamless. How to have quick communication and get it done. Now, another vendor that I used was a friend of mine from high school. So years and years ago, when I, thinking about getting married, I told myself that I really wanted to support local as much as possible. I wanted to support friends that were in the business, in the industry, in whatever way I could. When the time came, funds are one thing, and being local can cost a little more, and that's not a problem, but I had to kind of rein in where I was able to throw that support versus do it yourself. So my flowers, I had purchased some faux bouquets on Facebook Marketplace, and there were enough for my maid of honor and my 2 bridesmaids. And originally it was like a bride and 2 bridesmaids, but I decided that's gonna work for them. I'll keep their faux flowers, and then I would look into doing some flowers for myself. So in comes my friend Tiffany from Fondly Floral Designs on Instagram. Again, I will link her down below. She created a beautiful bouquet for me. Originally, I wanted to do more with her. I wanted her to do my arbor and have some other like boutonnieres and things like that, but with our toilet fiasco, I had to put that on hold, and with our upgrading of the tent, again, it was something that I had to just kind of pick and choose. So I decided I was gonna have a bouquet. We had great little video calls. She took all of the inspiration photos that I'd shared with her by color palette. I do not have a wide range of knowledge on flowers, as I'm sure many people don't. And so looking online, she helped me figure out what flowers were gonna be in season and therefore more affordable, what she could fill things with, and it was just fantastic. So she was amazing to work with, and she is a new and budding company. So if you are in the GTA, please hit her up for some florals, even if it's her birthday party. Like, doesn't matter what the event is, doesn't have to be wedding. She does travel, but because it was just a bouquet, I could not justify making her drive a total of like 3 hours to hand me some flowers. So thankfully, a friend of mine was able to connect with her the day of my wedding, literally the morning of, to pick that up from her, bring it up to the cottage, hand it to me so we could use it in our photos before the wedding started. I was a little nerve-wracked on that, but that was to no fault of Tiffany. It was my own fault because of when I was going up to the cottage, things had changed. So she didn't want to rush my bouquet, which I greatly appreciated. She took the time to be like, no, it's not gonna be as beautiful as it can be if we wait another day or so. So Tiffany, chef's kiss, 5-star, hands down. Now, the rest of the things, I wouldn't necessarily say they are vendors, but they're people that I've purchased from or items that I purchased kind of leading up to the wedding. So there's a few different websites that I purchased things from. I purchased from Etsy, I purchased from eFavorMart, I purchased from weddingstar.ca, got a menagerie of things. So from Etsy, I will leave all the specific shops linked down below, but I got my ring box, I got my guest book poster, I got the pajamas for myself and my bridesmaids. From our decor aspect, I bought a lot of things from Dollar Tree and different places and DIY'd a lot of things. I made all of my signs. I purchased acrylic from dangdesigns.ca. I love those girls, they're amazing. Everyone who works there is awesome. So made all that stuff myself. But some of the other decor of like table runners and faux florals and things like that, I ordered from eFavorMart, which is very inexpensive initially, but unfortunately I got hammered with import fees, which I'm not used to, and it always happens in the most random times, so that really ticked me off because the savings I had from purchasing it online, I lost by getting hit with duties. So eFavorMart, not so high on my list for ordering things because it was only like 2 really small light boxes, but unfortunately I got hammered. For weddingstar.ca, great site, obviously not limited to weddings, you can customize so many things. We purchased some stemless wine glasses as our favors for everybody. They said cheers, they had a little hashtag on them, and I made sure the hashtag was really small because I know that not everyone wants to see like our name using the wine glass all the time, so I wanted the cheers to be the focus. And given that 98% of the people at the wedding were family, I figured they'd be all right with it. So that was a big hit. We got our favors for the groomsmen there. We got them flasks that we had customized for them. And I purchased some jewelry for the girls from another Canadian company, Olive & Piper, out in British Columbia, which is another female-led business. And I absolutely loved these earrings, and I shared them in a previous wedding vlog, and I love them. I wear my pair all the time. They are just such high quality and just like beautiful pieces, especially when you wear them as a set or if you wear them individually. So that is everything that I can think about. I am sure that I have forgotten something, but I will have a blog post of some of these things in more detail down below, so be sure to check that out. And I will see you guys in my next video. See ya!